Live 7:06. And as I look at it, I'm upside down. That's what happens. I'm gonna fix that obviously after the show is over tonight. But it is a photo, albeit an upside down one, of some fairly cool technology for an old school inline 6-cylinder Chevy, the 292 that I ran before and will run again. I promise. It's been a long time, but it is a very cool dual quad. Actually, a dual. I think that this one is a dual 2-barrel intake manifold. Actually, let me check and see. Yeah, that one has twin 2-barrel Hollies on it, but I think we can put twin 4-barrels on there too. Not that you really need that for an inline 6-cylinder, but it is cool. So it's the thing that's the takeaway from this basically is that any induction system, any multiple carb or multiple stack, like an IR deal, all of those are really, really cool. So whether it's a dual quad, 2-barrels in this case, or 3 2-barrels, it's a tri-power, or 6 2-barrels like the old Stromberg stuff they used to run on some of the V8s. All of those are just really good. So whether it's a cross ram or it's forward, an inline deal, the cross boss, all of the multiple carburetor deals are really cool because it's just out of the ordinary. It's not, we know that a single 4-barrel, yes, it's going to work really good. Put it on a dual plate manifold, a street car, that's what you want. It's going to run really good. Essentially, all of the factory cars came like that. And the reason for that is because it works really well. Obviously, for some of those things, fits under the hood too. But it works really well, and it makes good power, especially good average power, especially in the RPM range where most of those things are run. So it's a good combination. That's why when people ask for recommendations on stuff, and especially older carbureted stuff, that's normally what I recommend. Oh, you're putting together a street motor that's sub 6,500 RPM. You should put a dual plane on RPM air gap. Usually if it's a small block Chevy or a small block Ford, that's kind of the go-to deal because it's been the leader for a really long time. Because whenever you put that on there, it always works very well. But when you open the hood and see a single 4-barrel carbureted small block Chevy or big block Chevy or small block Ford, big block Ford, the Dodges are the same way. You go, yeah, that's really good. You made the right choice. Oh, big yawn. Because it is the right way to go. It's the responsible thing to do, but it's not the exciting thing to do. So having a dual quad on there, everybody should have stuff like that. You should all have side draft Webers. You should all have cross rams. You should all have some sort of stack injection. You should all have a dual quad cross ram or, a tri-power deal, something weird. Just because when you open the hood and you're talking to your buddies about it, oh, what is that? Oh, it's a single 4-barrel 340 Dodge. Really? You don't have the 6-pack? Even though the single 4-barrels are arguably a better motor and might ultimately make more power, it's the 6-pack that really gets them going. So if you have a 440 6-pack because it says 6-pack on it for no other reason, you could write that on there. That's a cool way to go. So everybody should have that. You should have at least one of those. We're all going to be driving around with, in this world with single 4-barrels and doing the right thing. But you should all do the wrong thing once in a while and just do that. And then also the cool thing about it is multiple carburetors or stack injection, all of that, just 6 deuces. I can't even imagine trying to get that to work, although they're all really, really small. So it should be less problematic than I think, more than likely. And again, 1 good, 2 even better, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's even better. But the other thing that you get from that is the satisfaction of getting that done right. I mean, as much of a trouble as it might be, a tuning effort to get a single 4-barrel to do all of the things that you want it to do, to transition and kick down and all of these things, have the right air fuel and response rate and all that stuff, and which is all that's all possible and not terribly difficult to do. But things get more complicated when you have multiple carburetors. So getting that working, if you get a good tri-power setup to work, or a good dual quad setup to work, a cross ram, stack injection, all that stuff, if you can get all of those things to work, then you can like, you can walk off and drop the mic and go, yeah, I just did that. It's not only does it look awesome because it's a multi-carb or some sort of like multi-channel induction system, but also it's also working really well. So if you can get both of those things to happen, that's like just icing on the cake. Even if it runs bad, they'll all say the same thing. Oh yeah, that's pretty typical of multi-carb stuff. We know that it does that. You should just put a single 4-barrel on there, and you're like, yeah, I know that I should, but I'm not going to. But the other cool thing about that thumbnail, besides it being upside down, is that in addition to the dual carb induction system, which is very cool, if you notice, they both had air hats on them, and they had air hats on them as to be a blow-through combination, because right next to that is obviously a turbo, but also next to the turbo is the dedicated turbo manifold. So it's a dedicated 6-cylinder. Now you can just run the stock manifold and do a U-bend like I did, or you can have something cool that mounts the turbo where it should, and it looks better and it's cleaner and the manifold's better and all that. So you can have that too. And then you could combine those two, which is even more enthusiastic of you, but I like it. I'm behind it. That's very cool. So then you get to, you want to blow through both of those carburetors. Adventurous. Again, I like it. So then what I would do is run an intercooler, and then run a single out, or a single in and a twin out. So you go one in with the turbo, and then the intercooler tank on the outlet side effectively splits that signal and sends it to each one of the carburetors. Easy peasy, right? Plus, if you did it just right, you could package it so that it looks really cool. Because again, if you have a dual quad intake, it needs to be seen, and it needs to be part of like the aesthetic picture that you're trying to paint here of super dual carb performance. And it also has to work. So you're going to have to do some kind of Y anyway. So you could do a Y going into the two carburetors, and then run a single intercooler with a single in and out up front, and then have it just come around, and you could package all that and make it look nice. You can do an air to water somewhere. All of that is a possibility. But even a 6-cylinder, which this thing would have come with a 1-barrel or a 2-barrel on it, if I remember right, and you can put what I did was just start stacking up carb spacers, and eventually get to where we could put a dominator on there and blow through that. But we ended up blowing through a 2-barrel Holly as a blow through, running E85 just with lots of jet in it. And you can do that, but it's much cooler if you don't have that single carburetor in the center of the manifold, and I think ultimately distribution would be better this way also. So you're doing it not because it's just because it's cool. You're also doing it, because it's solving a problem and improving mixture distribution. That's what you could tell people. So whether or not that's the reality, it doesn't matter. It just looks cool. So I had a gentleman that lives in California on my way down to West Tech. In fact, he's in the Central Valley area. He loaned me these things, and unfortunately I didn't, because the engine was damaged or whatever. I had to get this stuff back to him because he's putting it on his car, obviously, which is, understandable. So when I do this, I'll have to test other things. I'll have to test other manifolds, which I had a bunch that I could test, because I still want to put that thing back together and just get it running and have it work and have it at least run some more boost again on it with a decent. The problem last time was I think that the points and condenser were probably old and worn out on it, and I'd never put new ones in it. But we have new ones to put on it, and I also have I think somebody sent me an HEI electronic ignition for it also, which would certainly solve the problem. HEI is more than strong enough for what we would be doing on that 6-cylinder. So all that's cool stuff, and I just, like I said, just want to get it running, just get it working, put a little bit of a camshaft in it, get it back together so it's firing on all 6 cylinders. Run an intake or two on there, but we got to run a turbo on there, right? And that would be very cool. Let's see what you guys got going on this Friday night. Let's see. And we're scrolling. Aussie. There you go. Never got an email from you on receiving the Dodge 655 head email. I said, Mark, I haven't seen anything. Are you sending it to the right email address? Staying out of the cold. Friday. Cool, yes, but a major pain to get a decent tune on them. But when you get it right, hang on. Do you have any experience with blow-through Weber carburetors? I've never done that. I've never done Webers. I've seen it done on Delortos, but I didn't personally do it, so I don't know what the deal was with those. Gear heads are in the house. 413 with 440 heads. I don't think I've ever seen 4 2-barrels. Look at some of the Pontiac stuff was weird like that. I want to talk to Holly about doing triple Terminator X 2-barrel throttle bodies. USAC Midgets in Placerville tonight. Cool. Toledo, Ohio. Like to see a sort of version of the Big Bang with RPM, like build a solid valve train and see how high you can scream a 5.3 or 6-liter on stock rods and pistons. The rod and piston is not going to go out with RPM. It's always going to be valve train. And the rod and the piston won't break with RPM. You're probably going to run out of oiling. Placerville is in El Dorado County. 30 degrees in New York right now. That's cold. I've been back there when it's cold like that. In fact, during this time of year. Stacks with lawnmower carbs, you could do that. No ring gap, but big intercooler on a 5.7. Will it keep it safe from blowing up and the rings touching? No. I mean, it will. You might be able to. You might get away with it, and it might work, but you don't know because you don't know what the gap is, and you don't know how close they are. $12-barrel for a Plymouth, that would be good. 24 degrees in Utah. So, Chad, you want the poll to be, does dual carbs make you a better man? Sounds good. Running a dual quad induction system. I forgot the system. Does induction system make you a better man? We'll see. We'll see who the manly man are. Would 10 pounds with no ring gap be safe? I'm not going to go out on a limb and tell you that it is or that it isn't because you just don't know. That's all up to you. Got lots of people run that. I don't think I ever ran a stock one like that. I've seen people run just bone stock motors with boosts and not hurt them. And then I've seen people run bone stock motors with boost and break them. So, but there's no amount of this boost level will always be safe. That's what people want. They want to be told that it's all going to be okay, that you can not do ring gap as long as you're running this boost. That's what they want people to tell them. And there isn't that. Has anyone seen any GMC type blowers, 871s or adapters for LS? Yeah, I have videos up on that already. We ran a 671 on an LS. Kager is junk, ported with a plate even. First half of my welding on the intake is done. $75 degrees and mostly cloudy in Florida. Yeah, the blower shop has not adapter plates, but they have a lower intake manifold designed for the LS. And I think that Speedmaster has those too. I'm going to run 10 pounds on my LM7. We didn't run 10 on the L33. I think we ran 7 or 8. Best new old school is the 496. Ooh, I see 292 stuff in the thumbnail. Yep, we did talk about that. I just want to see a 6-pack ported TBIs with good heads on a turbo beat a stock LS on a turbo. That's a pretty tall order. I don't think that induction system alone is going to be able to do that. So all you need is a good valve train head to support it, and you could spin a 5.3 to 10 grand. Go watch what Ben has done over at and see how many years he spent getting that thing to run to 10,000. 10,000 is not easy. Who makes the water to air intercooler with 2 inlets and 1 outlet that I've seen you use in the video? The one that we have, it's a dual core and it's 2 in and a big single out of the center, is from CX Racing. I have a 99 Chevy Silverado 1500. Is your 99 Silverado a 5.3 or a 4.8 LS? Or a 6-liter with iron heads on it? I'm debating on either heads and cam build on my 440 Winnebago or an LS swap. I want a minimum of 500 foot-pounds and good reliability starting and stop and go manners. 500 foot-pounds is not... You won't get it at really low engine speeds with an LS unless you do a big one. Uh, 1.37. That's a decent amount. Jason, you won't run out of oiling, but the oiling will become a problem. Why? First of all, why do you need to run to 10,000? You don't need to make power at 10,000 RPM. What kind of power do you want to make, and what is it you're trying to do? Adding fuel injection to my VW 1600, but do I turbo it? Yeah, it would be ideal to turbo it. Richard, what do you set the ring gap on a boosted 5-liter? We do 6 to 6.5 thousandths per inch of bore is what you do on any motor, not just a 5.3. So on the big bang motors, we went over 30, went 30 or over, but 28 is more than enough. First car I ever bought when I was 14 had a flathead V8 with 2 Stromberg 97s on it. One was chrome, the other was not. So you had one slacker. Would 15 horsepower per pound of boost be a good gain? The amount of power that you get per pound of boost is a function of the motor that you're starting with. That's not a good amount for a 400 horsepower NA motor. You should be getting a lot more than that. Richard, do you have a recommendation on 90s LT1 intake that can take a standard distributor? You could put I think that Jim Hall has a mini RAM that would be like that they made for the LT1 that has a provision for a distributor. So I called the guy that wanted to buy the Cutlass and told him that I was going to keep it, and he said he would give me 30. So I told him that it wasn't worth that much, and he said, please think about it. An 8.1 is probably not going to get tremendous mileage, although maybe there would be something you could do to the tune to cruise it. I'd have to ask, who's the guy here that has he's the guy that I used his photo last night, either last night or this morning, for the turbo boat motor that he did. And he's got a turbo 8.1 in his truck that he's got like 1 million miles on. So he would know what the mileage is. Think a 6AN fuel line can support a 5.3 with an M122? Yes, without any problem at all. This channel is slowing, turning my entire garage to turbos. That's good. Turbos for everything. I'd like to see a 4,500 flange TBI with 8 200-pound injectors. 6.0 will outperform an 8.1. I don't know about a boosted 8.1. Will almost make diesel-like torque. A 6-liter doesn't make as much torque as an 8.1. In fact, let's step into Mr. Wizard's laboratory and we're going to find out, because I have both of those. I know a stock one won't even be closed. So we're going to go to our dyno results, and then we're going to go to our LS Cathedral Port results, our 6-liter. We'll take a look at a stock one first, and then we'll do a stock one there. That's making pretty good torque. It's over 400 foot-pounds anyway. It's 430 or so. And then see if I can find the... So I don't know where my 8.1 is going to be. Do I even have that? Atlas 3800. Big block Chevy finals, maybe. Turbo. 8.1, test number 1. Finals part 1. Final stock exhaust manifolds. Oh yeah, it's like not even close. The 8.1, like compared to a stock 6-liter, makes 550 foot-pounds. So it makes more power all the way up to 5,500, 5,400. And by a lot, I mean, that's 150. Like at 3,500, it's between 150 and 200 foot-pounds of torque. So it's a lot different. And so for towing, an 8.1 would be better. I don't know about the fuel mileage. And on a modified 6-liter, well, we're still not going to get anywhere near that kind of torque though. So let's take a look at the Holley Cross Ram deal. So running a modified 6-liter, one that makes like 530 or 40 horsepower, it's making not quite 500 foot-pounds, but all the way up to 4,800, it's still way down below an 8.1, a stock 8.1. And again, at 3,500, it's still 100 foot-pounds less. So For towing, it wouldn't even be. I mean, if you're looking for the power and you want it all down there, the bigger motor is definitely the way to go. Everyone at my shop is talking about the Ford 7.3 gas engine. They want to turbo it and put it in an F-150. They should just put a turbo LS in an F-150. Are the R series Hondas less desirable? Like a Type R? What makes an engine get good fuel mileage? Lots of things. You got to get rid of all of the losses associated with the motor running. So you need to get rid of all the friction losses if you can, all the parasitic losses, like all the drive stuff, all that drive assembly. You need to have it produce the power that it needs to produce to cruise at whatever the aero drag and rolling resistance are required with the vehicle and weight that you have. It's going to require a certain amount of power. So you need to get the motor then to produce that power using the least amount of fuel. And so lean mixtures are a good way to do that, and more timing. I don't know about the fuel mileage though on an 8.1. Is there any benefit to using aftermarket performance ignition coils on a factory engine? Not on anything modern. Not on a Hemi, not on an LS, not on an LT, not on a Coyote. None of those things are necessary. My new work truck, a 2021 Duramax, has 900 foot-pounds of torque start. Yeah, the diesel stuff is really the way to go if you're looking for towing. Just want to say on a side thing that having nut out of spec is utterly annoying. An inch and a quarter nut that measured 1.278. What's the max bore you've seen on an NA LS3 LSA block? Machine shop board 20 instead of 10 for 85. I've never gone that far on an LS3 block. We only on an aluminum LS3 block, we only go like 5. I think a sloppy stage 2 or milder truck Norris and a 408 with rec port heads 10 to 1. That eventually a single turbo will be a solid, reliable, legalish truck. I don't know about the last part. Capable of towing weight. Yeah, it'd make more than enough power to tow stuff. It's a good flat tap cam and cylinder head combo for a 350 Chevy. Plow truck needs a new motor soon. Have a low mile smog motor I want to build. Take a look at the stuff that I have up on the, and this will give you an idea because this will probably be on both sides of it. But we ran a Pure Energy 246 cam, which is really small for a small block. And then we ran like a 224, which is a 224 at 50, which I think is a 268 or a 270 something camshaft on the small block. And they're both flat tappet. So look at both of those and you can see, and then you can kind of decide, hey, do I want something leaning more toward the Pure Energy one surprised me. For one, it's emissions legal, so it's kind of nice. And it makes a lot of good low speed power. Better than the bigger cam did. The bigger cam ultimately made a lot more peak power, but you can kind of decide. And then, like we've talked about, this gives you an idea on not just these two, but where you might be for a camshaft that would be kind of in the middle. I have a micro squirt on my 90 Spirit, works good. Spirits are cool. Have you ever seen a multi-port performance manifold for an LA small block that's low enough to fit under the doghouse in a B300? I wouldn't have any idea what that would be, and I don't know of any multi-port deal. Didn't somebody do a dual plane for that? My Astrovan took a Holly Stealth Ram, no problem. Yeah, fascist pennant. The fuel mileage thing isn't just the engine; it's a lot of things. Gear for the best brake specific fuel consumption for MPG. That's really easier said than done. How do you know what RPM the best brake specific fuel consumption will be? Because it's not just RPM; it's also load. Bought my first car at 14. Silverado has 300,000 miles. My 1500 is a 02 and it has over 300,000 miles. I'm not thinking about a new. Well, I am kind of thinking about a motor on mine, but it still runs good and still gets good mileage. Hey, Rods, what is your issue? Are you here to help, or are you just here to like be a troll? Doesn't even have a car, but how did he get all these right here? And he's done more testing than you've ever read about, so there's always that. So I guess you're not here to help then, right? You should be, because everybody here, there's lots of professional racers here that are here to help people that are asking questions. And I've done more testing in the last 30 years than you've ever seen. So guess what? You can go somewhere else. Yeah, when they come with that intent, they're not here to learn something. They think they're here to teach something. Coyote head on a big cubic inch would be a killer. I remember who was it? I think Pete Ardema put 928 4-valve heads on I think he did it on a big block. Jet Black, happy to help, man. I had no clue that Callaway broke 250 miles an hour back in 1988 with a Corvette. I think it was 800 and something, 820 or 830, if I remember right. Lingenfelter did the motor in it. Laying in bed on Richard's live chat. Rebecca's hoping it's another woman, not race car stuff. Guy with the C4 I was thinking about buying found out I detail cars, so he had me detail it. Now he doesn't want to sell it. See, that's what happens. You do a nice job and make the thing look nice. And that's the thing. Your vehicle never looks as good as it does when you prep it right before you sell it. You're like, oh man, you know what? That thing really looks good. Multi-port is better, but the modern Holley TBI systems work excellent. Definitely learned a lot from Richard about my 5.9 Magnum. I was able to get a decent 14-second pass in a backyard built dart. Cool. Is it so it's a 360? And what did you do to it, dude? Using the Torque app OBD2 adapter real time chart plugin, you can load log, fuel rate, get really close for brake specific. But Roger, how can you adjust RPM then? Even if you have that data, how would you know to you have to change the gearing to change the RPM at any given speed, so you're not able to do that. Weren't you going to test 5.9 kegger mods? I did already. I've already run one of the. In fact, I sent that manifold back already. We tested the throttle body, the big monoblade throttle body, and then the kegger mods that the guy from UT Awesome sent over. I just sent that manifold back to somebody else. Did I show Lisa the pole in the McLaren? Yes, she's all for it. You gonna race the GLHS you built against the RT again? That one, I didn't race mine against it. He had he has a real GL. Well, they have a bunch of GLHSs there. So he had a GLHS that was modified. Mine's all stock, so that wouldn't be a good race against that car. Mine needs to be all stock to begin with to do the emission certification. I think even a stock Spirit would beat a stock GLHS. Did the Callaway Corvette 88 have the fan on the bottom? My question must be boring and insignificant. Are you feeling like you need a hug or something? Are you feeling left out? I'm trying to answer all the questions. I don't see yours. I'm scrolling though. Scrolling, trying to find it. I'm still not seeing it. So ask a specific question about what you mean about a Type R. An Integra Type R is an amazing car. And it's better than any other factory B series powered Honda. So they're awesome. Does that answer your car? And I'm scrolling back. I'm scrolling back. .360 Magnum out of an 01 Ram, light porting and gasket matching on the intake. 276 cam, long tubes, Holley Sniper EFI, cool. Disclaimer, I'm not good at tuning cars. That still works. And you're over there gone with Mr. Problematic. I know. I remember the first time I drove an Integra Type R, and it was I was very impressed. Richard, for a GLH to be stock, it would need to be an original T1 draw-through style. Yes, if what I was trying to do would be to make it a GLH, but I'm not. I'm doing a GLH S swap into it. And that's the big thing, is that I'm doing a T2 swap into this 85 car and having it, making it legal in California. So that's the big deal. Well, I mean, it's a big deal to me. Thought that the C1 B18 was the best. What's a C1? A B18 C5 is the best. The Type R's, yeah, they're real money. They're like all of the anything that we thought was cool at the time is definitely money. Duke, I'm building a 5.9 right now. I hope to see my Dakota in the 13s. Might need a supercharger. Just try a 100 shot and see. That'll give you an idea of how much power. That's the cool thing about nitrous, is that you can use nitrous to determine what kind of power mods you need to make NA to get to achieve your power goal. So if you have a motor that's running 1490s and you hit it with a 100 shot and then it goes 1390s, you're like, okay, good. I need to make another 100 horsepower. You'd have to do the torque thing too, because it's all together. But at least it gives you a fairly good idea. Like, look, I dropped a second and went up 7, 8, 10 miles an hour, whatever it is. And you're like, okay, that's kind of what 100 horsepower is going to do. B18C1 is the GSR. Yeah, the GSR is not nearly as good as a Type R. Do piston rings lose outward spring? You can lose spring tension if you overheat it a lot. B17, yeah, the original Integra, the original GSR, and a B16B, yeah, would be a Civic Type R. What's the process in getting it California legal? Yeah, you have to take it to a ref station. Yeah, if you read about the stuff that they did to the cars, it's amazing. They did on the Type R's. The changes that they made were a lot. I mean, the average guy can't really see that from the outside, but they did a lot. And driving those on a road race track, it really was amazing. I'm looking to get 400 horsepower out of a Chevy 256 cylinder. Is that enough to hit 1290s? It is in a lightweight car. Would a red hot cam work on a 6-liter without a converter? Thinking of putting it in a Commodore wagon. I would recommend the hot rod cam in the 6-liter if you're not going to do a converter in it. We're not doing individual parts. It'll be a swap car, so it'll go to the ref station. Found a Turbo 2 that's been sitting for the last 15 years, and the guy still wants 15 grand. That people like them. Richard, I just finished taking apart my third 6-liter, and the rings, like other two, are all coked up. Are you talking about the oil control rings, or both the top and bottom rings? The oil rings are frozen with brown carb. That's pretty normal. It's probably the positive crankcase ventilation system. If you take a look inside the intake manifold, you'll see why that's the case. Scraping carbon for a week on these 5.3 pistons. That's what took the longest amount of time doing the big bang stuff. Actually, was doing the ring gap, because in addition to with the ring gap part of it, actually itself took very little time, especially because I wasn't real specific about how much ring gap I wanted. I didn't care after a while, so it was a go no go thing. So they all had at least 30. Some of them probably had 35, but they all had at least 30. But going through the process with the ring cutter, with the total seal ring cutter, is very, very easy and fast and efficient. But cleaning the rings was another thing. And cleaning out the ring grooves was a time-consuming deal, because I made sure to clean off the oil rings. Because when I put them back together, I wanted them all to like rotate nicely. And that took some doing. I'd take everything out, clean everything off, go in and scrape the heck out of them and get them all clean. It took a long time. It took a few hours to get all that done. A C1 with an aftermarket intake and mild pouring will make more power than a C5. Nope, I've been down that road. The GSR cams are not anywhere near what the Type R cams are. I had a machine shop clean my last pistons. I reused money well money well spent. It is. Had to grind a crank and new bearings on an overheated 500-mile rebuild. Wow. A quart every 75 miles? That's a little excessive. GM gave 3 RPM for piston ring rotation. So that's what they're saying that they rotate at while the thing is running. Does it change with engine speed? So our poll is running a dual quad induction system make you a better man? I forgot what it was. 57% are saying yes, and 43% are saying no. Yeah, quart every 75 miles is not good. That's going to get expensive. Soak the piston in carb dip to remove the carbon. I dunk them in a 1-gallon can of dip, and you can rinse the carbon off with a garden hose. That would be nice. Just put them in the dip. Had to rewire my entire project car because of mice. They have that at the car farm too. There's lots of rodents there. We opened the hood. One of them peeked his head out of the air box. Do you recommend catch cans? Yes, I do. We use those. Well, we just vent them to atmosphere on the dyno, but it's a good idea in the car. CDC, you have a small block that made 575 at 6,500 and 509 foot-pounds at what displacement motor is that? That sounds pretty sporty. Had a tall eBay single plane intake. The rated RPM may or may not tell you how good the intake manifold is. Dual quad predator carbs qualify as two. Yeah, that counts. I remember seeing tunnel rams with those back in the day. Put mint tea bags and fabric softener to repel the mice. That's good. That's good info. 6 RPM for piston rings. Don't know where the 3 came from. Rats hate mint. See? On the catch can you do one or both side valve covers to it? We run a vent. We have a valve cover that we made that has a big opening in it that has just a big 5/8 or 3/4 inch. It has a fitting on it and then a big piece of heater hose coming off of it. But we also have the center valley open, and then the other there's a breather tube that comes forward on the driver's side, like right adjacent to the oil fill, and we have both of those open as well. We have everything open so that you don't get a bunch of buildup. Would you consider doing a down test on propane? I've never run propane, and I don't have any propane carburetors or mixers or any of those things. The only propane thing I've ever done is with the guy over there that had the Atlas motor that he had running on propane, and we just started it up and ran it on the stand. What's a good rev limit for a 3rd gen LS53 truck motor cam only? Well, you shouldn't be worried about rev limit. You should be worried about where you're making power. Like, what kind of cam is it? Where does this thing want to make power? Does it have a stock head? Does it have a stock intake manifold? And how much cam did you put in it? More than likely, it's not making much power past 6,500 anyway. Have you measured crankcase pressure? They have that ability at West Tech, but I don't remember doing it. Peanut butter and spring traps, that works good, and so do the sticky ones too. Have you done an L66? I don't know what that is. So basically, the more vent, the better. Yeah, it's definitely a good idea on boosted stuff, but all of them, anything that would be prone to blow by or build up, even on NA stuff. I remember when they were doing the owner of West Tech, they were doing a motor for him that was going in his really super double throwdown Nomad that he had, that he still has. And then the valve covers that he were using didn't have any provisions because it was some, I don't know, $1,500 or $2,000 valve cover setup that didn't have any provisions for crankcase ventilation because they enclosed the oil, coils or something like that. And so they tried running it, and I'm like, you need to check that. And then they did, and then they kept drilling holes in the they kept drilling holes in the center valley to run a PCV off of that, and they actually did testing to find out how big it was, and I don't remember how big the hole had to be for them to not lose any power. They were kind of looking at it for a power thing, and they figured once they got to where they weren't losing any power, that was probably enough. Have you tested vacuum pumps? Yeah, they're worthwhile. I do like what somebody mentioned, the little terriers. What are the little Jack Russells. Yeah, the Jack Russells. I like watching the videos on those where the guys lift over the big hay bales or the big section of sod that they have, and there's like 15 or 20 rats in there, and the dogs just go nuts. I just set up the 5-gallon bucket mouse trap. I've seen those online. 30 something mice in 2 hours. I guess that thing works pretty well. Huh? It shows it shows it on YouTube. It must be true, right? Guy uses a mink to flush out the big rats. Yeah, a mink they're pretty serious. So I'm going to go ahead and close out our comical poll. 56% saying yes, that running dual quad induction systems makes you more manly or a better man, whatever. Any more remote turbo setup videos coming up? I don't think I need to do that again. Although I kind of would like to do more like temperature testing with that and see. I'd like to see if we, and maybe tubing size also. But the remote setup was a lot of work to get it to on the dyno. The gophers you just use 2 strokes with. Pour lime around will keep snakes out too. You don't want to keep the snakes out. You want the snakes come for the mice. You want the snakes to come. The snakes are good. .360 Magnum Big Bang, 21 degrees. That's cold out there, Dave. Which LS do you prefer? Whichever the next one that I find at the wrecking yard is. The L33 I was really happy to find that. Eight-foot long tube intake runners. My stomach's growling. You need specialized seals, just different carbon seals, and we don't need them. I don't think to run on the engine dyno. I think we could run a few passes or 10 or whatever, how many ever. Hello. Okay. Everybody say hi to Lisa.
Hello, everybody.
What is that? All right. Mink, attack mink. Attack minks are very cool. I would like to have a trained attack mink. Milo was really good at that. Actually, when we used to go out to the ranch, and I'd be looking for snakes, but when I would, we would be lifting up cardboard and wood and stuff. When we do that out there's a lot of mice, and he would love getting those. I don't think he's quite as adept at it as the little Jack Russell Terriers, but they seem to be like bred for that. Oh, a badger that'd be pretty tough. That's what you'd name your attack mink, as Hemi? No, honey badgers are the real deal. I've seen honey badgers laugh at multiple leopards. That's a lot of attitude. You know what else does that are really, I didn't realize it until, I don't know, in the last 4 or 5 years that I found stuff on it, were the big river otters too. Remember they're like, yeah, go ahead. I know that you jump in here and get caiman and alligators and crocodiles or whatever, but jump in this water and see what happens. There's like about 8 of us. We will drown you and eat you. It's a good way to run a catch can to automatically drain. You could have a drain. Why couldn't you have the drain opened up? An attack mink and a McLaren F1. And the I would have two of them because there's two seats. Well, I guess Lisa would have to be there too. So maybe one attack mink and Lisa. Factory VVT and a 6-liter versus aftermarket comes such a torque cam or truck Norris for towing. I don't know. I've never run. I don't know what the torque curve looks like with a factory VVT cam because I've never been able to run it on the dyno because I've never run it with a factory ECU. Yeah, if you haven't seen river otters, go look up giant river otters, and they're pretty serious. If you had the ability to pick 2 5.3s for a big turbo burnout car, would you pick one with a 706 or 799? The burnout car, I wouldn't even care what cylinder heads were on it. It wouldn't make any difference. The heads wouldn't change anything about what's happening with that combination. Ferrets in Canada, that's cool. Braswell carbs are really nice. I think Brulé has tested a few of those. Can you do remote tuning with HP tuners? People can. I can't. I've never even tuned with HP tuners. Milo doesn't Milo doesn't catch mice so much anymore. But he did catch a squirrel the other day, but only because the squirrel ran right into his mouth. So we were coming back down the hill, and so he was tired. We were walking down the trail, and when we're walking down the trail, on one side are the woods, basically trees and everything, where all the squirrels normally are. And on the other side is a big field. A lot of times that grass is really high, but it's all been cut down. So it looks like just a rototilled field. Well, for whatever reason, the squirrel was like out there in that rototilled field, and we started walking up, and he looked up. He probably was not noticing what was going on. He looked up, and she's like, oh no, there's people coming, and they're very, very close. So he took off running, and Milo's walking down the trail. I don't even think he saw it out there to begin with. And we're walking down the trail. I'm like, and that's a squirrel right there. And Milo's like, oh, what's going on? What's going on? Because, all the squirrels are going to be over in the trees. And the squirrel ran right in front of him, and Milo's mouth was open, and they intersected just perfectly. And Milo grabbed him, but the squirrel was able to wrestle himself free. He kept going. I'm like, he literally walked up and threw himself in your mouth, and you still didn't get him. That's okay. Yes. Good times. Good times. The squirrel did catch Milo right in the mouth. Richard, is a Holley XP carburetor worth money over the Brawler carburetor? No, look at the test that I did on the two. There's a test I did on both of those, and the Brawler carburetor was kind of right there. And especially at the lower power levels, unless you're going to take advantage of all the things that an XP has to offer. Bull snakes are good mousers. Yeah, like the bull snake is basically like the gopher snake. They're the same thing. King snakes too. But they ambushed a kitten from the 390 engine area. They ambushed a kitten. How big was the kitten? And how big was the bull snake? It's pretty adventurous of a bull snake to think that he can eat a kitten. Usually they're 3-4 feet. Milo's 12 now. Milo after the mask of Jim Carrey. No, he's named after a character in the Phantom Toll Booth. What's the biggest cam an LQ9 will take without valid piston clearance? Somewhere in the 230s, low to mid 230s at 50 on the intake. I had one time when there was a possum that froze up while I was letting the dog out. The dog went out to the possum and tried to play with it and shook my head. I remember when I was in down at West Tech, and Lisa called me and said, hey, Milo just caught a possum, and we think he killed it. It's out in the backyard. said, you need to go back out in the backyard and tell me if the possum's still there. And she went back out. She said, it's not there. I said, yeah, because it was playing possum. That's what they do. Milo probably picked it up and, gave it the dog shake, like the toy shake. And the possum's like, oh, okay, you got me. And then Milo put it down, and then they all came inside and called me. And then the possum like, I'm out. Oh, and Daniel, the squirrel is telling like, man, this one time, this, and it's not even a golden retriever anymore. The story is like a Rottweiler or a pit bull or a lion. It could have been a mountain lion. I don't know. It was like that color. So, the story's got to get better. This dog Milo's been caught the little striped cats twice, the skunks. Once here, right after we moved here, both our dogs got sprayed because we have skunks and possums and all kinds of stuff walking around at night at the backyard. And then once when we were up camping, Milo was outside and went to try to play with the skunk, and it didn't go well. The opossum, honey badgers. James, Richard, I spent 2 hours porting the oil pump on my 6-liter. No sharp edges. Well, it's definitely going to make more power now. Do Victor Jr. LS fuel injected intakes make good power? Lucky for you, there's a video up where I tested all those intakes. And I tested the Victor Jr. carbureted on the Cathedral stuff, and then I tested the EFI versions on the LS3. I don't know which one you're talking about, but a Victor Jr. is a single plane manifold, so it loses power through most of the curve compared to the factory EFI long runner intake manifolds, but it will work with the nitrous shot that you're talking about. Could you do a test with a stock cat versus a straight pipe? We don't normally run cats on the engine dyno. My dog's double teamed the squirrels in my yard. The Great Dane shakes them out. Nice. That's a good team. I do the same thing for Windsor's standard flow Millings pump that gets blueprinted. Nice. Weimaraners are cool. I have a friend that has one of those. Chase after a deer has been AWOL for 9 days. People spotted him in the area. Our female that has since passed away took off. Her and Milo went after some squirrel or something, and then Milo came back. And she never came back. We're looking all over for her, and I don't know if she took off running and went back to where, like, to the top of the hill where we had gone before. I think she thought, oh, that's where they must be, right? Not the 5 feet away where we were. So we lost her for a while, but we found. Chase rabbits. Yeah, our dogs, especially the female, was fast, but not like real wild jackrabbit fast, because we had jackrabbits just look back and laugh at them. Although one did clothesline itself on a barbed wire fence. It was awesome. Which would be better roller rockers? I like the crane stuff. Does anybody make a dual plane, a 4500 flange dual plane? I don't think I've seen that. I ran when I did Engine Masters, I ran a 4500 to 4100 adapter on my dual plane because I ran a 750 Dominator carburetor on it. Yeah, I think at least from what I read, bull snakes are 5 feet. They will get that big. They'll get bigger than that. They'll get over 6 feet, but you don't see them that size very often. Gasoline Fireburn J. Yep. Someone said he was trying to start one of the steam-powered cars. I think he's going to be okay, though. They said he's going to make a full recover. I live with 2 sables and 3 cats. One that stays in my bed because she's mean and has nerve issues. And does the Holly Sniper work well with nitrous? I never know what people are talking about when they say sniper, since Holly applies that name to 15,000 products. And I don't think if you're trying to do it as a closed loop thing with nitrous, I don't think that that's a good idea. I don't think it's quick enough to do the instantaneous change in fuel if you're just using that for your fueling. One more minute. Uno momento más, por favor. Legacy tests with an intercooler versus no intercooler with 3 consecutive pulls. I have lots of intercooler, no intercooler tests, and it doesn't take 3 pulls to see the power drop off. You want to see the power drop off with an intercooler? Any hill runs in the future? My legs are still a little bit sore from the last one, but yeah, I still do that. Not that one in particular, but there's a shorter one here that I do. I need to keep running. I need to stay in shape. I need to start working out is what I need to do. That's really what I need to do. Tomorrow. It all starts tomorrow. And then it gets cold and then you don't want to do it because you're doing lots of videos. And on that note, it's time to get going. Thank you guys all for showing up. It's Friday. Go do something. Come on. Go have fun. You're young. Sprout wings. Go do fun stuff. Yeah, and make sure everybody hits the like button before you go. Thank you guys all. I will see you all in the morning. Pow! Jack Russell's for the win and River Otters.